Alright, chicken and zucchini stir fry. For this one I'm using skinned thighs of chicken. I've got 4 skinned thighs there, 500 grams of thigh meat. You can use breast meat for this if you prefer. I prefer the moisture that we get from the thigh meat in this dish. I think it contrasts really nice with the rest of the ingredients in here. And you will also need some zucchini squash, or as we call it in Britain, we call this courgette. We call it by the French name courgette, which I've cut into sort of half moon slices. Now I'll show you how I do that quickly. So you've cut the zucchini and then you split it lengthways, and then I just run along the knife like that to produce those nice slices as you see there. So that's how that's done. Now onto the chicken, we pretty much do that the same. I take the chicken pieces and cut them into nice long similar sized pieces to the vegetables, and there you see it. So let's get all that done. So your total volume of chicken is going to be around about your total volume of vegetables. This is geared more towards the Western palate than the Chinese. The Chinese would probably use significantly less chicken and meat than we use. I've also got roughly chopped 2 cloves of garlic. I've chopped up, very finely chopped up 2 spring onions, which will be for a garnish. And I've half moon cut some carrots in a similar way to how I cut the courgettes, the zucchini. And if you want to see videos on this, I've done preparation videos on how to cut up carrots. Just off screen I've got a quarter of a brown onion which I've chopped up, and I've chopped up into nice pieces around about that size for stir frying. The other thing you will need is a couple or 3 teaspoons of cornstarch, some of which we'll mix with water. Right, now for the soy sauces. What I like to do is I like to put about a teaspoon of each of my favourite sauces. So that's the Chinese light superior light soy sauce. I'm also using a bit of this Golden Mountain, which is a Thai soya based sauce. Very nice, very tasty, adds a different level of flavour. And I'm also adding some of this lovely high quality Thai mushroom soy sauce to it. So all in all, just a little more than 3 teaspoons of that, perhaps a tablespoon of soy sauce in that altogether. We can always add a little more later if we need to. The other thing I'm keeping as a standby is a superior dark soy sauce. This is more as a colouring agent than a flavouring agent, and it makes the dish. It's rather used rather in a similar way to we in the West would probably use gravy browning in this particular dish. So there we are, that's it all chopped up, ready to go. The only other thing I haven't mentioned so far is a bit of toasted sesame oil. Now we do not cook in sesame oil, we just add that as a flavouring agent, and normally at the end of the dish, because we don't want to lose any of that delicious nutty flavour and aroma. Alright, next thing I want to do is get this chicken marinated. So I grab myself a bowl, get the chicken into the bowl, tip a bit of my soy sauce into it, about half of the soy sauce into it, and about half of my garlic into it, and get down and dirty with your fingers in that. Get that all mixed in nicely. And also from that, I just want about 1 teaspoon of the taken out of my cornstarch, which I will then massage again into the chicken. This helps to protect the texture of the chicken as it cooks, and you want to massage that in fairly well. You can add Chinese rice wine into this, Chinese cooking wine into this, which will add another dimension of flavour. The other thing you can add instead of Chinese cooking wine is a dry Fino sherry, but don't use sweet sherry, it wouldn't work. So you need a dry Fino sherry, which is the nearest thing you'll get to Chinese wine, cooking wine. Right, okay, on to the wok. Alright, my wok's coming up to great heat. What I'm going to do is introduce a little bit of oil into there, about a tablespoon, perhaps a little more of oil. I prefer to use groundnut oil, but at the moment I'm using sunflower oil, but it's perfectly good. Just have to watch it so it doesn't burn. And into that, as with all my other dishes, Chinese style dishes, I first put in my meat, making sure to get the good stuff out of the marinating bowl. Get that in there and get that stirring round. Once that's in there, keep that turning and moving. Alright, we've got a fairly good feel on most of the chicken now. Keep that turning, and into that now we can introduce our onions, our garlic, and our carrots, and give that a good old stir. What you're doing with this now is you're building up a flavour bomb. You've added the meat, which is marinated in its soy sauce. And garlic. And wine if you're bothered with it. And it's around about this stage now. The chicken's mostly cooked, and you can see it's mostly cooked. It's not completely cooked through, but we don't want it to be overcooked in the finished dish. So what I'm going to do now is introduce all my courgettes. And get those moving around with the chicken. I don't know if this is strictly a Cantonese dish. It's probably not a traditional one. And I can imagine the Chinese would have used any vegetable to hand and given it the same sort of treatment as we're giving this now. So it's more of a, I would say this is more of a Cantonese dish in essence rather than in tradition. I love the way that thigh meat cooks up. I don't know why people bother with breast. Really don't. There you go. Very nice. So we keep that moving around and we let that cook for a little bit longer. What I want to do now is get in the last half of that soy sauce into there. Give that a good old stir and get that moving around. And as the courgettes start to cook, they start to issue some of their own liquid back into the sauce. And that's a good thing. Because at this stage, what we want to do is get a lid over that as tight as we can get it. Use your biggest lid. If you've got a wok and a wok lid, that's even better. And your lid is going to get really, really hot. And at some point it will start issuing steam around the edges, as you can see here. And what I want, I just want that to go for about 30 seconds before I lift the lid and finish up this lovely dish. Meanwhile, I'm going to mix my cornstarch, my corn flour with some water, and I just want to mix that up until it's thoroughly diluted. So now you see steam is issuing rather vigorously from the lid of that, and in a few seconds I'll be fine, I'll be able to lift that. And as you see, without adding any additional water, that has now created quite a nice amount of water just from the vegetables we've added. Alright, it's at this stage that I now want to introduce my cornstarch into the dish. I'll put about half of that in to start with and give it a stir, see where we are. I want a little bit more sauce than that, so I'm going to add more water and more cornstarch. That will bring down the temperature considerably inside that bowl. Now, I know the British have an obsession with cooking things to death but don't do it. You want to leave some crunch in these vegetables, and by the time this is all finished, trust me, that chicken's already good to eat. So don't worry about that. And get in there, give that a good stir, and see where we are. I think that looks rather good. Right, keep your eye on it, and if it starts to reduce too much, you need to add a little bit more water to it. So I'm going to add a tiny bit, perhaps half a teaspoon of dark soy sauce to this, and the sauce I'm adding is, let me show you, is that one. It's this one's Pearl River. It's a Chinese superior dark soy sauce, and it's an excellent sauce, and only about half a teaspoon, don't want too much. I'm going to dilute that with a bit of water and then just put a little bit in, see where I am. I don't want it getting too dark, you see, just want it getting to a nice colour. I think we're about there, aren't we? Look, maybe a little bit more, look, about half of what I've got left. There you go, that's it. That's going to look fine on a finished dish. Alright, that's about ready to serve, and the last thing I'm going to do is put in a tiny little splash of toasted sesame seed oil, and that's probably no more than a teaspoon of sesame seed oil, and that just gives the dish a beautiful lift and a nice little nutty flavour right at the end, and it smells amazing. Alright, let's just get that served up and I'll show it you. Alright, that's it served up in a dish. Doesn't it look lovely? There you go, there's succulent chicken. The carrot gives a nice contrast of colour and flavour, and you've still got some nice crunch in that zucchini, in that in those courgettes, and then I just give that a little light sprinkle of finely chopped spring onions, and there you have it. Chicken with zucchini or courgettes in the Cantonese style. Enjoy! If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to follow my channel, please subscribe, and be sure to click the bell icon to receive notification of all my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.